I will call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. I don't have Ann, do you happen to have the statement in front of you for the open meeting law?
I don't, but I can find it. I can pull it up.
Okay, I will,
I was gonna say I could probably bring it up here. Second here. Oh, that's the.
I have trouble finding one. All right, I got one here. All right.
Okay.
So, in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 20, relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency, the January 19th, 2021 at 7 p.m. public meeting of the Norfolk Recreation Commission shall be physically closed to the public to avoid group congregation. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. This application will allow users to view the meeting and send a comment or question to the chair via the chat function. Submitted text, comments / questions may be read into the record at the appropriate points in the meeting if they are in line with the town's public comment policy. The meeting will be recorded for future rebroadcast by Norfolk Community Television. For more information on getting connected and using the video conference features, please visit the Town of Norfolk website. So we do have a few guests, so just off the top, so Ann is the host, so she'll see, if you raise your hand, she'll see any of the comments and let me know about that. And we can take questions from there. And usually first on the agenda anyway, we have citizens speak. So if you'd like, the guests would like to introduce themselves, and if they have anything they'd want to say off the top, we'd be happy to hear it.
I should probably preface this that this is not the field allocation meeting, that it is the rec commission meeting. So the field allocation meeting is February 2nd, although anyone is of course welcome to attend, and we are discussing field fees tonight, but no one is required to attend. So.
Okay. Then if we're good there, we can move on with our agenda. So the first thing we had to discuss was just the new code of conduct policy that the town put out. Ann had sent that out to everyone, and we just need to take a vote on whether we're going to adopt those. And if we choose to adopt those, then each of us would just need to sign the acknowledgement that was included in that email and send it off on our own to the town administrator's office. So is there any questions or comments on that from anyone on the commission?
I think I misunderstood. We have to sign it if we don't agree with it?
No. So if we choose to adopt it, they're asking each member of the commission to sign the form acknowledging the policy.
Okay, that was where I got confused. Yeah. Okay.
And I think we need to provide a vote as well, which that can be handled separately. So if there's no comments, then I will make a motion to accept or adopt the new town conduct policy for boards and commissions.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All those opposed? No one. So that is adopted unanimously. So I would just say, Ann, I will copy you on an email just to Judith about the vote. And I would just remind everyone on the commission just to send your acknowledgement in when you have a moment. So.
Does the information say to send it to Judith? Does it does give the email?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it said in there. I don't understand why, but that's the way it is.
If anyone sends it to me, I'm happy to forward it to whatever works for people.
Yeah, the email's in there, and if not, just whatever's easier. All right, so that brings us to the big item and the final item on our agenda for the night is the field fees. So I know last week we discussed a framework for adjusting our field fees as they are currently stated in our field allocation policy. And we had agreed to table it for last week to discuss it this week in order to get a better idea of the numbers and analysis behind those, and behind any decision we make, with the idea that the field allocation meeting is coming up. And my personal preference to not raise fees any later or adjust fees any later than now. So, Anne, I know you've done a little bit of legwork on this, so I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Did anyone see my email I sent about an hour ago or so? So, so just to reiterate a little bit about what we talked about last week is that we have groups of players ranging from age 3 to adult, and the same fee is applicable to everyone, whether they're playing 1 time a week or 2 times a week or 3 or 4 times a week. So I think that this year, well, I know this year, not the larger groups did not play, and it became pretty evident that some of the groups that were playing weren't really supporting themselves playing with the maintenance needed to be done for those particular fields. So I do think we need to do some assessment, and that's what you would ask me to do. And I found that going over this past year's figures and then the year before, and then knowing that Norfolk youth soccer hasn't decided yet what ages will be playing this coming year, I felt like I was guessing more than I would like to be, considering we're talking about a change in field fees. So a couple of things that I did, so I did adjust in the field fees, if you agree. So first off, and this may seem like it's not related, but last year the portable toilet fees went up considerably, and plus some of that was because we also have to sanitize them, which we do, and that's fine. So I did adjust the portable toilet fees, so the fees that we're paying are actually covered from the fees that we're charging. So I adjusted that. And then the other change that I think that we could make now that is reasonable for organizations to adopt are the summer field fees. In the past, when the summer field fees were initially instituted, it was actually based on football, because football started in the first or second week of August, and then they went through the fall. So for August, they paid a third of what they would pay for the fall, so $10. So it's never changed. Football's gone away, and there are other organizations playing in the summer that play more than 3 weeks. So I think that fee at minimum should go to $20. It's just more representative of the number of weeks or the portion that they play. And that can be adopted. I mean, that's a ways away. So no one's paying summer fees yet. So there's time for organizations to adjust. As far as adjusting other fees, we don't know if Norfolk Youth Soccer is going to have its ages 3 to 5 that they're still considering. And I do feel that, the kids that are 3 to 5 years old playing once a week, could pay yet less. But I think with doing that, we have to assess, like you had said, that, how much the other kids are playing. But without having numbers from last year and without knowing who's really playing this year, I think I think we should assess who's playing and the ages that are playing this spring and then go from there.
Okay. And I tend to agree with your statements. I don't want to hastily do anything, and I especially don't want to kind of piece something together like lower stuff for kids now, then raise it later. I think what we all agreed on last week was to keep things as data-based and as analysis-based as we could. And I think you point out very kind of well that we don't actually have numbers from last year because things sort of got cut short or didn't happen at all. So we really don't know what we're dealing with. And I would just ask the one question that I asked last week, and I think I know the answer based on your explanation of the portable toilet fees, is are we covering our costs with what we are charging now? Because if we're covering what our costs are now, I don't see a reason to rush into anything.
So are we covering our costs now with the current field fees?
Yes.
So that, I think that's the $64,000 question. And based on last year, the work that needs to be done on the field, we wouldn't have covered. But because numbers were so different last year, and they were different as in low from some groups, but high from other groups. So using last year's numbers doesn't make sense for anyone. And going back 2 years I just feel I felt like I could, pull it together. But as I was doing it, I felt like I was filling in the blanks with more guessing than I was comfortable guessing with, or I should say estimating. I mean, I just felt like I was like, well, I could go this way or I could go that way. And I didn't feel like it was I had enough information just because of where we were. And I thought, if we had this, if we have the spring numbers, then we would have a much better sense of where we are right now. And we could make an adjustment for the fall.
So I guess maybe I'll rephrase it a little bit then. I guess in your best judgment, knowing what needs to happen over the course of the next year, or at least the next 6 months, would you anticipate any financial issue or financial hardship on the part of the Recreation Commission or our funding if we kept the fees the same way?
Well, yes, specifically with baseball and softball. And then and field B is in terrible shape. And if DPW can't get seed and tarps on that, we're going to have to be closing that. So that's looking at about $3,500 if we have to have someone from the outside. But to maintain baseball fields really to the level that we want to maintain them, I do see that there could be an issue. But we've also talked about baseball bringing in someone. So it depends, some of that depends, some of our decision depends on that.
Right. So
and just for the public record, Will, if I could just jump in here, what from the commission's perspective, what would you recommend? And then I'd like to see the commission and Will, I'm sure you like your recommendation. I know that you sent the email. We may not have all had the chance to really read and dissect the email to what we would have liked to. So I guess what I'm asking is what would you as the director like to recommend to the commission? And then I'd like the commission to then take the conversation on from that perspective, and we can have that conversation here.
What I would recommend is to keep the spring field fees as they are.
Okay.
I would recommend now saying that at minimum, they're going to adjust the summer fee to $20 from $10.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the course of the spring to evaluate the number of players, the ages of the players, and the actual work that we need to do. And we need to do as Norfolk Recreation, but also evaluate the work that other organizations, specifically Norfolk Baseball, are they going to be doing some work themselves? I don't know that we know that right now. And that does have a significant impact as to what we can be doing. So I think we need to figure that out or know that, know the outcome.
Okay. I think that's fair enough, personally, and I do agree. have to pin down baseball on what their plans are for the maintenance aspect. So
I also think if we can't pin them down by the end of this spring, because we've been trying to pin them down for a while, I think we need to just make the decision.
yeah,
And there's no more waiting.
yeah. Although I'm going to say I'm probably public enemy number one over there now. I just left my umpire position, so I've kind of left them without key volunteer man hours. So, but I will, we'll have to get to the bottom of that. So, all right. So then I will make a motion. We can have discussion as we see fit on the motion to increase the August or the summer field fees in August from $10 a player to $20 per player.
It's July, just so you know, July 1st.
July 1st. Okay. The July, so it'd be the July 1st field fees?
Yeah, it's just it's usually just categorized as spring, summer, and fall.
Okay, so it'd be the summer field fees. Then.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to increase the summer field fees from $10 per player to $20 per player. And then we will further explore the spring field fees or the remaining field fees over the course of the next several months.
Second.
Okay, so is there any discussion on that topic? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? No one? The motion carries unanimously. All right,
And Will, I will be happy to interface with you on the baseball aspects, just knowing that, you know, that is a pressing issue. So
okay,
feel free to reach out and we can, and, you know, I know a number of people that are involved in baseball as you as well, that's a pressing issue and happy to help move that forward as well.
excellent, awesome.
I would, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to make mention that I did change the wording, not any fees or such, but wording to the field allocation policies, giving a little more explanation as to what the field fees are used for and why we might possibly have to add additional fees. I've also, I'm going to have to remember where it is. I think I'm going past it on page. Portable toilet should be right after this. I added a couple of paragraphs regarding field closures on page 6 and sort of added a caption of when and how is a field closed due to poor weather conditions. I've made the mistake of making assumptions that people knew what to be looking for, and they were not reasonable assumptions. So I thought I should do a better job of explaining of, you know, where people should be looking on the field and what they should specifically be looking for.
And you know what happens when you assume.
What?
You know what happens when you assume these things.
I know. Well, it's just over time, and I did. You know, like it's.
So, I mean, on that topic, I think it sort of goes back to, not to elongate the meeting anymore, but it sort of goes back to what we talked about after we did the renovation at the Freeman School of building a culture of field maintenance and having a knowledge base in our volunteer crew, understanding what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and providing them the resources to make sure that they are keeping the fields up as they play. And I think it was better this year, but there was definitely still some of those days where you kind of scratch your head.
Yeah, I have to say though, it's a lot of work, you know, for volunteers. Just, you know, trying to get your kids there, trying to get the fields in good condition. Baseball's tough to take care of those fields. You know, you're trying to do the best thing, and so I just thought a little more explanation would hopefully help.
I think so. So does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add? Any of our guests, any of the commission members? All right. So we don't have a next meeting schedule. We have the allocation meeting scheduled, so I don't know if you guys want to try to put something on the calendar for that. I'm thinking probably later February, because do have the allocation meeting at the beginning of the month, and we've met 2 times this month. So I'm thinking we could do maybe Tuesday, the 23rd, something like that, 7 p.m.
That's, anytime is fine with me, so it's up to you guys.
Right? Does anyone have any problems with that?
No, works fine.
All right. So we'll
So
do that.
I do have a couple of quick things for tonight's meeting, things that
Okay.
One is at the last meeting, we talked about the budget, and you had talked about bringing back the secretarial position. So again, I don't know if you even had a chance to read my email. I apologize. It was so tight and there wasn't much room in between. So, so between our last meeting and this meeting, I submitted our budget, and then apparently the town administrator decided that people at the top of the grade range, and I've been here 22 years, so I'm at the top of the grade range, no longer will get a step raise. So so the money that would normally be allocated to raises, I took that money and added the secretary back in.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
pardon me?
Thank you.
Well,
Not great for you, but thank you for adding for.
yeah, I have to say I was a little surprised that I wasn't told ahead of time. I think that's a little odd, but it is what it is. So I just thought you guys wanted the secretary, so I'm going to take advantage of it and put the secretary back in and keep Kathy's hours and not decrease them at all. And then the budget process is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's the clearest, considering they asked to do a 3% budget, but then tell you to only include the 2.5% step increase. So I don't know if the 3% budgeting, it's not really a 3% budget, or is it? And, I don't know. So I just did what I needed to do. So the narrative, I sent the narrative to you, and what the narrative is a brief explanation of what Norfolk Recreation is, how it operates, and then the budget for this coming year. It's 1 page.
Okay.
Excellent.
But in the longer term, the Recreation Commission needs to think about adding a program coordinator. I'm retiring in 3 years. So I don't think I've been doing this for a long time. I work more hours than you can really hire someone to work. And I'm happy to do it. I have no complaints whatsoever. But you need to start thinking about that. If you look at Walpole, they have 4 people working and they have less programming than we do.
Yeah, and I think that's and you make a good point in the sense of, and it's why I think I was advocating in the last meeting the need and the necessity. There are a lot of big decisions that are looming on this commission, and there are a lot of longer term strategy discussions that will need to take place from a commission's perspective that I think have not been required of this commission for some time. So with respects to the future plans that we've all been a part of, the planning of as far as the fields and what does recreation look like from a town perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we should certainly think about that from an individual commissioner perspective, but then also too in the near future, look to have that broader conversation. And, Will, I know you and I have talked about that at times about what does that look like and how does that fit into the current state of the town and what the future state of the town needs to be able to position this commission, but more importantly, this department for future success. So I think those are all duly noted points that you
And
made,
Yeah.
and particularly in comparing, town by town and what the future needs of this town are really going to be,
Well, one of the things, I have the capital presentation, budget presentation on February 16th. And one of the things I'm going to bring up in that meeting is the number of turf fields in our town, which is 0, Plainville, which is 0, and Rentham, which is 1. If you go to Medway, they have 3. Franklin has 3. Walpole is now going to have 3. These are single towns.
Mhm.
I mean, the King Philip
It's bad that we
community
don't have.
is, to say it is lagging is an understatement. It's not,
Agreed.
Well,
it's,
it's not only that, it's not even just from a comparison of like assets to assets, because I see turf fields as an asset from a town perspective, but it's also too, right, the chasing of whether or not DPW is going to be able to, it's the longer play here. It's long-term maintenance. It's not just long-term maintenance, but it's the maintenance on our athletes. Those athletes that reside here in Norfolk, but also too those athletes that come in and utilize these fields from a tournament perspective. It's, you sometimes have to be willing to invest in the short term to be able to realize the gains in the long term. And that's certainly something that I think we've talked about in past meetings, but also too, what's really ahead of this town and this commission from a positioning perspective to be able to put our best foot forward. And it's not just for, obviously I always put the interests of the residents first, but too, like those people that are coming in to use these fields. And we know, and as a former collegiate athlete and a student athlete, if you don't have good fields, you are ending careers, prematurely. And the way that older kids are playing now and training and to just get ahead in their athletic, careers, we have to put those best interests forward. So I certainly think we have to look at that in the longer term. But unfortunately, we can't plan for the future if we don't start to make some of these decisions. And some of these decisions are going to be hard decisions in the short term as well.
well, I also think it's important that people in town, including and especially the select board, starts to hear now what's needed in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years, rather than them hearing it, to your point. I mean, it can't be sprung on people. So
I was the field hockey coach at the high school, and I'm actually so surprised that there hasn't been more of an outrage by all the athletes, especially the female athletes, because there's just, sometimes they don't even have turf practice on a turf field. I mean,
rarely do they have turf back.
rarely. And it's actually borderline, like at this point, it's embarrassing, because the only town that was really left to not have a turf field for field hockey was Sharon, and even Sharon put one in. And
Yeah.
so the reality is that you've got 3 towns sharing one turf field at King Philip High School, when the majority of that field goes to the band, to the football teams, and they do the best they can, but there's only one field.
Yeah.
And
And now with the MIA rules about the heat, you can't have people on it from
Yep.
11 to 3 or 10 to 3 or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the restrictions. So I do think that, Ann, you are correct and very right on in saying that there really needs to be, I mean, Walpole just built that whole new, I mean, but that's the mentality of the town, right? I grew up in Walpole. So, they had turf fields as soon as they could, and they keep adding them for their athletes. And that's why
Well, if you look at Medway, Walpole's a larger town, but Medway is a pretty small town, very similar to Norfolk.
Yeah.
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 Three turf fields for
3 turf
just
fields.
one town, not for.
And it's also, and the upkeep is less on a turf field.
Yep.
The maintenance, you put it down, you leave it pretty much.
Yep.
So.
All right, well, these are all exciting discussions that we have coming down the pipeline, and I'm excited to have those.
So Will, just really quickly, from an amortization perspective, Ann, can we look at like can you talk to some of your colleagues before you make that capital budget presentation to the select board? and
I
others?
actually have a meeting tomorrow and I've already put out that I want to talk to, try to get a sort of an inventory of what's
because
around.
you know, to Kim's point, I think the way we articulate this message, and I know that Will and I have talked about this on so many different levels with just even with baseball and some of the ongoing maintenance, like to be able to show what the upfront cost would, but the long-term savings to the town would be is pretty imperative. So I would recommend to try to get those numbers in line so we can articulate that message, and then all of us as commissioners can bring that to the various conduits in the various communications that we need to make to ensure that, you know, people see why it's not just to make the field look nice. There's actually a significant cost savings that's associated with that.
No. I can.
Great, thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else to add before we call it a night?
Just one other thing. I looked through for September 21st notes because I can't find, the cloud recording is no longer in existence. No one downloaded it. I don't always download them. I will from now on. And unfortunately, like, you know, the way things, you know, it's the one recording that NCTV didn't upload. And then when they went to do it, it was gone because I wasn't aware that Zoom only kept the minutes kept it on the cloud for 30 days. So, and I don't think, you know, it just is one of those things. So if anyone has any notes for December 21st, I have my notes from my agenda. But if anyone has any notes for September 21st meeting, if you could just forward, even if you scan them to me or take a picture and text them to me, anything, I'll put together the minutes for that meeting. Okay, so if anyone, if you could, even if you had a few notes in your written down. So we just need to get that done and get those on file.
All right. Awesome. All right, then I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, no one opposed. I will adjourn the meeting at 7:35 PM.